One of the most devastating experiences a man can undergo when he's young is to give his heart to a woman sincerely and fully, only to watch her give herself to someone else. And you can feel it, right? That dagger in the chest, not just from the event itself, but from the unraveling of the story you had written in your mind. Because you didn't just lose a person, you lost a future, you lost a dream, you lost part of yourself. Oh, and there's this voice that starts to whisper, maybe I wasn't enough, maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe if I had been stronger, richer, more charming, more masculine, more whatever, maybe then she would have stayed. And it eats at you. It corrupts your perception of who you are. It makes you want to look in the mirror and avoid your own eyes. Suppose patrania respax. But here's the brutal truth, and you need to hear it clearly. The versat trot frata trotidar stetacheng. But when she chooses another man, let her go. Not because you're weak, not because you don't care, but because strength is not clinging. It's not begging. It's not twisting yourself into knots to win back something that was never truly yours to begin with. Strength is standing up straight, shoulders back, and choosing to walk away from what has already walked away from you. In you undulation every year. Now, listen, this isn't just about her. This is about you. About what kind of man you're becoming. In ancient stories and myths that stretch back thousands of years, betrayal is the crucible through which the hero is forged. Think of Osiris, dismembered by his brother. Think of Christ, betrayed by Judas. These are not just stories. They're maps. Maps of human experience etched into our collective memory. And what do they tell us? And, they tell us that betrayal, abandonment, rejection, they are inevitable parts of life. Say, oof. But they also tell us something more profound, that in the aftermath, in the ashes of what you thought your life would be, concise lies the invitation to become something greater than you were. But you can't do that if you let resentment take root in your soul. Resentment take root in your soul, that is the path of Cain. And we know where that leads. It leads to destruction, to bitterness, to nihilism. You start to think all women are the same. That love is a lie. That virtue is for fools. That's the seduction of the bitter man. He justifies his failure by destroying meaning itself. Don't be that man. Instead, use the pain. Use it like a blacksmith uses the fire. You must transform it. You must rebuild, not in her image, but in your own. In the image of the man you're called to become. That means taking responsibility. Radical responsibility. Clean your room. Fix your posture. Get strong, physically and spiritually. Find a meaningful goal. Build something. Serve something higher than your own wounded pride. The loss was real, yes. Mourn it, but do not worship at its altar, because there's something waiting on the other side of the suffering if you face it voluntarily. If you carry it, not as a victim, but as a warrior. And there's something heroic about that, something noble. So I'll say it again and listen closely. When she chooses another man, let her go. Not with spite, not with hatred, but with grace, with strength, with the silent understanding that her choice does not define your value. Your response does. Be the man who walks forward anyway, who rebuilds his soul, who faces the chaos and brings order to it, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Because in doing so, you become the kind of man who doesn't just attract love, you command respect. And more than that, you earn your own. That's the path. That's the meaning. That's the way forward. That's the way forward. And Ali, so take a breath, stand tall, and walk it. You know, people often ask me, why does it hurt so much when she leaves, when she chooses someone else? And they usually ask with this look of disbelief, like they've just witnessed the collapse of reality. And in a way, they have, because when a man falls for a woman, truly, what he does psychologically is he builds a little world in which he exists as a central figure. He projects a vision of the future, often unconsciously, where she's not just part of his life, but the foundation of his imagined life. And when she chooses someone else, it's not just the loss of a relationship. It's the annihilation of an entire potentiality. And that's no small thing. It's a death of sorts. A death of what could have been. And we're not equipped to deal with that easily, especially as young men, because we're not taught how. We're not told that part of love, part of investing in anything meaningful, and is that it carries the risk of loss. And the deeper the investment, the greater the pain of its loss. That's the cruel symmetry of attachment. But here's the real tragedy. Most men, when they experience that kind of rejection, they let it destroy them. And why wouldn't they? Their nervous system is screaming. Their thoughts spiral. The woman they cared for has now attached herself to another man, and that feels biologically like a threat. Like being hunted. Because on a primitive level, we interpret that as a complete loss of status, of value, of purpose. Attriburator something out for far. And the thing is that pain isn't lying to you. It's telling you something brutally true. It's saying, you cared. You cared. You dared to put yourself in a position where you could be hurt. And now you are. It's your pain. But what matters, what separates the man who will rise, the one who will sink, is what he does next. Because here's the thing, there's a very dangerous temptation in that moment. A temptation to chase, to plead, to cling. And let's not pretend we're above that. It's perfectly understandable, but it's also profoundly misguided. And because every ounce of energy you spend chasing someone who has already made a decision, to walk away from you is energy drained from your capacity to rebuild. You see, people think strength is about not feeling pain. That's nonsense. True strength, voluntary courage, is about feeling the pain fully, recognizing its source, and still choosing to act with integrity. Choosing to say, if she wants someone else, that is her right. And I will not twist myself into something I am not to try and win her back. That's not apathy. That's dignity. Because at some point, you have to stop asking, why didn't she choose me? And start asking, why did I make her choice the defining measure of my worth? Weakasitionos, that's where the path begins. Not in chasing love, but in reclaiming sovereignty over your own soul. And I'll tell you this, if you cannot let go of someone who has already let go of you, then you are not loving them. You are clinging to the illusion of control. And the longer you hold on, the deeper you entrench yourself in the very suffering you claim to want to escape. Of arrogance. Oh, so when she chooses another man, let her go, not out of bitterness, not out of arrogance, but because you have something far more important to protect, your capacity to move forward, your capacity to grow, your capacity to become. That, my friend, is the beginning of transformation. And it starts with the courage to release what no longer wants to stay. You have to understand something fundamental about betrayal. It's not just a painful social experience. It's not simply someone walking away from you. It's not simply someone walking away from you. It's far deeper. It strikes at the archetypal core of your psyche. Because betrayal is not merely about the loss of a relationship. It's about the shattering of trust, and with it, collapse of the internal order you built around that trust. Carl Jung pointed out that betrayal activates something primal within us. It evokes chaos. Not the kind of chaos where your desk is messy, but the mythological chaos. The formless unknown. When someone you trusted, someone you let into your innermost world, suddenly chooses another man, well, what you're left with is a psychological landscape in ruins. It's as though the map you were using to navigate your life has been burned, and you're standing there where's Waihasas and Batakoptral, and you're standing there in the ashes, blind, angry, disoriented. And you might say to yourself, why her? Why him? Why now? And the terrifying thing is, you won't get a clear answer. Not one that makes the pain go away. Not one that puts the world back in order instantly. Cover instantly. Because this kind of betrayal, especially romantic betrayal, forces a man to confront the fundamental unpredictability of life. And that's where the mythological aspect comes in. In every great story, the hero must confront betrayal. Osiris, as I mentioned, is torn to pieces by his own brother. Christ is betrayed by one of his closest followers. These aren't just tragic plot devices. They are representations of what happens internally when the structures we relied on, people we trusted, beliefs we held, suddenly fail us. And in those stories, the betrayal is always a turning point. It's the moment the protagonist either disintegrates or begins to transform. You might feel like you're drowning in that moment, like the weight of it is too much. And in a sense, that's accurate, because you're undergoing a death, not a physical one, but a psychological one. And the old version of you, the one who believed in that relationship, who believed in that story, is gone. And the question becomes, will something better rise from the ashes? Oh, but here's the twist. Betrayal is not the end of the story. It's the middle. It's the point where the boy begins to die and the man starts to emerge. Because it's only when you're thrust into the chaos, into the pain of betrayal, that you're forced to grow teeth. And without teeth, you're not capable of real strength. You might think you were strong before when everything was going well, but that's not strength. That's comfort. Real strength is forged in the moments where you want to give up, where you're tempted to hate, to numb yourself, to shut down, and you don't. And here's something else. When you're betrayed, you come face to face with your own shadow. You see all the parts of yourself you didn't want to look at, the insecurities, the dependency, the hidden expectations. Maybe you put, when she chooses another man, yes, it feels like death. But what if that death was the very thing you needed? What if she had to walk away for you to finally confront the man you've avoided becoming? What if the betrayal wasn't the end, but the doorway? Hello, that's what myth tells us. That in the darkest moment, when trust is broken, and you're left alone with your shattered map of reality, and a real journey begins. Not the journey back to her, but the journey into yourself. The danger in betrayal, especially romantic betrayal, is that it doesn't just break your heart. It fractures your sense of identity. Debacks when you invest of deploot. Because when you invest in someone deeply, especially as a man, you don't do it halfway. You orient your future around her. You say, this is the person I'll protect. This is who I'll build with. This is who I'll build with. This is who I'll sacrifice for. And that decision, whether you realize it or not, binds your internal structure, your hierarchy of values, your plans, your sense of direction to her presence in your life. To her presence in your life. So when she chooses someone else, it isn't just her leaving. It's the collapse of the scaffolding you built around your vision of the future. And that collapse is traumatic. Traumatic. Because now you're not just facing loneliness, you're facing aimlessness. The compass is spinning. North is gone. Snow. And betrayal. There's a betrayal. And here's what makes it even more difficult. There's a betrayal inside the betrayal. Because it's not just about what she did. It's about what you told yourself. You told yourself this person saw you, chose you, valued you, maybe even loved you in a way no one else had. And now you're left asking, was that ever real? Did she mean what she said? The monus kakantan, or worse, did I lie to myself? Well, that's where the psychological unraveling begins. Because betrayal, at its core, is a confrontation with untruth. Either she wasn't who you thought she was, or you weren't who you believed yourself to be in her eyes. And often it's both. That's a devastating realization, and it's meant to be, because it forces you to examine every assumption you've made, not just about her, but about yourself. Oh, this is what Jung meant by the confrontation with the shadow. It's not some abstract philosophical idea. It's brutally real. You're left alone in the wreckage, staring at the parts of yourself you didn't want to see. The parts that were needy, naive, passive, weak. Maybe you made her the meaning of your life because you hadn't yet built a meaning of your own. Maybe you gave her the power to validate your existence because you hadn't yet stood on your own foundation. Ellie, and now that she's gone, what are you left with? That's the question Betrayal asks. Not just why did she leave, but who are you without her? Who are you without her? That's the question that echoes through your soul in the sleepless nights, in the ache behind your chest, in the hollow pit that follows you through the day. And there's no quick answer, but this is where myth and psychology converge. Because not a lost wound, because the betrayal is not just a wound, it's an invitation. It's a trial, a descent. In every great narrative, the hero must descend into the underworld. Not because he wants to, but because he must. Because without the descent, there can be no transformation. Think of it like this. Betrayal initiates you into chaos. And chaos is the space where old forms die and new possibilities emerge. But only if you face it voluntarily. Only if you look at the ruins and say, I will not turn to resentment. I will not become bitter. I will not hide from this pain. I will let it burn away what is false, and that's unbelievably hard. Because everything in you will scream for comfort, for distraction, for escape, for escape. But if you can resist that temptation, even a little, and choose to engage with the pain, to mine it for truth, you'll find something extraordinary. You'll find that beneath the heartbreak, beneath the humiliation, beneath the rage and confusion, lies the raw material of your rebirth. You'll find that the betrayal didn't just destroy you, it revealed you. It showed you where your identity was borrowed, where your strength was untested, where your self-worth was externally sourced. It exposes you, not to shame you, but to challenge you, to call you forward into a deeper, more resilient form of yourself. Because in that dark place where everything has fallen apart, you are presented with a question. Now that she's gone, who will you become? And how you answer that determines whether the betrayal breaks you or rebuilds you into something unshakable. Responsibility, true, voluntary responsibility, is the cornerstone of masculine transformation. And I'm not talking about the hollow, performative kind, where you pretend to have everything under control while silently falling apart. I'm talking about the kind that demands something real from you, something sacred. The kind of responsibility that says, I will not let this suffering go to waste. Because after betrayal, after the woman you love chooses someone else, there comes a moment where you are utterly